All right, now welcome back. Tonight we speak with a man who will say what is on his mind, thank goodness. And he has finally, thank goodness, agreed to appear on this program. Please welcome the host of HBO's Real Time with Bill Maher, Bill Maher. Thank you for joining us. I really do appreciate it.
Look at you, all grown up on CNN.
Isn't that crazy? I mean, you're laughing at me.
Well, because I remember some of the questions we used to get when I was on Loveline with you.
Yes, and I still do Loveline, believe it or not. But people don't know, and we mentioned this in the makeup room together, is that we've known each other 15 years.
At least, yeah.
Which is a little freaky when you've been...
That's probably the longest relationship I've had with a doctor.
Maybe with anybody, frankly.
No, Scott Carter we were just talking about.
Yes, your executive producer.
A number of the people from Politically Incorrect, which started 20 years ago,
it's unbelievable,
are still with me. So that says something about my psychic health, Doc, doesn't it? That they would stick with me 20 years?
Either something good about you or something not so good about them, one or the other. But what people may not know is I used to do that show a lot with you, and it's still, other than this show, of course, probably my favorite thing to ever do on a television. It was really fun.
It was a beautiful train wreck, wasn't it? I mean, it was sort of a design train wreck. But that's what people liked about it, and that's what we were sort of trying to achieve, a television that was not predictable.
Well, it was honest, which is something you don't see that much on television.
So honest we got fired.
Well, that's what I wanted to talk about, which
really?
is no,
still,
a little
we're
bit.
Still talking about
well, a little bit because when that happened, I was outraged. I was outraged that you. I don't know if you remember. I came up to you. I said, "I'll stand behind you on this."
Because I know you did, and I appreciate that.
But because you were merely making a point, you were making a point, and it was a vivid point. It was to make a point, and because you spoke honestly and spoke your mind, you lost your job. And that's my question is what are the grounds of honest discourse these days? I mean, have we lost the ability to be honest and to be direct and to have the First Amendment protect us?
That's funny because I did an editorial, and actually they printed in the New York Times last week about let's stop all apologizing. And it really struck a chord with people. I think it's something that everyone was starting to think, that I've been thinking for years, which is stop this culture of everyone feeling they have to go through life never being uncomfortable for even a single moment. And that if someone upsets you with something they say, not only do they have to apologize, very often they have to go away. Like I had to go away for a while. They wanted to make Rush Limbaugh go away. Now, I don't agree with hardly anything Rush Limbaugh says, but I defended him. And then the liberals attacked me for defending, and I'm like, no, no, no. This is wrong. The basis of the First Amendment is protect the speech we hate. It's easy to protect the speech we all agree with.
Right. And you said some very powerful things that people objected to about Sarah Palin and Bachmann. And you had a right to do that the way Rush had a right to say horrible things. And we have a right to attack people for saying those horrible things, too, by the way, though.
Well, first of all, I didn't say horrible things. I said what they attacked me for was saying something in my stand-up act, which is very different. I'm in the tradition of Lenny Bruce and George Carlin. I'm a potty mouth. That's not a misogynist, and I'm a comedian. People were laughing really hard at what I said. That's nothing like what Rush Limbaugh did. He actually attacked a civilian. First of all, Sarah Palin is a politician. She's called people terrorists and child molester. She called David Letterman a child molester and the president a terrorist. She gives pretty good. So the idea that it's horrible that I can't, in my stand-up act, say whatever I want about him, ridiculous, and not equivalent to Rush Limbaugh.
Have we lost our sense of humor?
Well, that's, I think, what I was trying to make last week with the apology was, because it's gotten to the point where it's just always a political football. When somebody says anything, I don't believe anyone really believes anymore that something that is said, like what De Niro said, is really that bad. It's just an opportunity to get at the other team, and that's part of our problem in America, is we have a red team and a blue team, and they attack each other.
Well, I was reading Andrew Jackson's biographies recently, and back in the day, you hired a newspaper to attack the other newspaper, the other side. You had two sides that there was no such thing as journalistic integrity. Journalism was a biased, nasty, partisan operation. It was very, very different in those days. All right, let me switch gears, and I'm going to challenge you about something. We've spent a lot of time talking about the shooting of an unarmed team in Florida. I'm going to have you watch this tape, and this goes at some of the issues we're talking about here. Take a look at this.
They will try to make your son a junkie, a thief, a assaulter, and everything else before this is over.
They've killed my son. And now they're trying to kill his reputation.
Okay, of course, that's the Trayvon Martin case. We've been talking a lot about that. A tragedy. Is this about racism?
Of course. I can't believe we're even asking that question.
Yeah.
How could it not be? If the positions were reversed, if it was a white kid who was shot by a black guy, you think we'd be in this situation?
I thought about this last night. What if it was two black men?
Probably wouldn't have heard about it.
Which is, to me, I think you're right. That, to me, that strikes deeper in some weird way.
Right.
Because it's uncovering these subtle aspects of racism. It's raising consciousness that we need to do, right?
Well, the new racism is denying racism. That's. You know,
I was in that camp. I got to tell you, I think I was in that camp, and I spent my week apologizing to all my African American friends because when they would complain, I go, "Oh, come on, it's not that bad. It can't be." Just sort of denying that. And now I see something like this, I go, "Oh my God, I'm sorry, I didn't know. This is something I'm apologizing for."
Yeah. Well, you know, a survey recently of Fox News viewers found that they felt that reverse racism was actually a bigger problem than racism. You know, I don't know what universe these people live in, I guess a white one. You'd think after all these years they would understand, just looking around them, that that's not really the case. Reverse racism is not worse than racism. And we see it in so many ways, but I guess from their point of view, we've progressed so much, and that's true too. That's the hard part of this, is that America came from slavery, obviously, but then we went into an era of Jim Crow, and then we went into an era of segregation. And now they think, well, those problems are gone. We are no longer segregated officially. We don't have Jim Crow laws. We don't have slavery, of course. So the problem is solved. And it's, I would say to them, it's like if a race started and 3/4 of the way around the track, the black people got to start running. Now they're running too. You don't look up and go, hey, we're all running now. Yeah, but somebody had a giant lead, which is why I would say, you know, affirmative action is still appropriate in some situations.
Thomas Jefferson calculated it would take 200 years to undo slavery in this country. It was his calculation. All right, let me ask a topic that you like ribbing me about a little bit, the idea of sex addiction. You say it doesn't exist. Right here, I share a stage with Pierce Morgan. Right here, you said it doesn't exist. Tell me what you mean by that.
Well, I mean, to me, an addiction is to something that's bad for you. Isn't that an important distinction to make between every other addiction? I mean, heroin.
It can hurt you. The heroin's not bad for you. That's the crazy thing about opiates. They're not bad for you. They create a horrible disease process where you destroy your life and you eventually start using it in ways that are bad for you. But the opiate, the great advance in the opiate was it didn't hurt the person at all. It just took away pain. That's why it was such a marvelous advancement. But it caused this disease, this change in their thinking, the change in their behavior, this thing we call addiction. So, so there.
Well, tonight I'm going to have sex and do heroin. This is fantastic. I can't tell you how happy I am about coming here today.
And then, of course, pot is a favorite of yours. And do me, before we get into that, I'll probably get that in the next block. But riddle me this. Why do I always get labeled as the buzzkill guy? I don't want to kill anybody's buzz. I don't believe in good drugs and bad drugs. You paint me as that sometimes. The anti-pot guy. I'm not the anti-pot guy.
When did I ever paint you as that?
I think somebody
really
did.
Well, you know
Joe Rogan kills me on that all the time.
I probably smoked too much pot and I forgot, but I really have no recollection of doing that. I don't think of you as that guy.
Okay, good.
I mean, I don't think of you as one of my smoke-out buddies.
No, well, it's not me. But if you want to be that guy, I'm not going to not be your friend.
I don't think of you as a prude at all. I mean,
thank you.
And I always defer to you because you obviously are a doctor and I'm not. But someday I'll get you stoned, and
fair enough.
And you know, we'll have a whole different sort of discussion.
Yeah, we'll talk about Twinkies and the ho-hos probably. But, all right, there is this world inside the mind of Bill Maher. I'm going to dig deeper into that after the break. I'm also struck by the depth to which we are shedding new light on how racism affects our relationships. I myself feel like I should be apologizing to my African-American friends. This has raised us to another level of understanding about racism and the sort of the more subtle workings of it. This is awful. I didn't realize. I'm sorry. Bill, is there anything wrong with apologizing for that?
No.
Okay.
No, I mean, apologies are not in and of themselves bad. In fact, they're amazing sometimes. In Rwanda, you know, they had these, what they called, I can't remember the word in Africa, but it's basically an apology court. I mean, these are people who tried to commit genocide, one on the other. And obviously, these wounds are deeper than anything we can imagine in this country, and yet the power of an apology. They set up these courts where people just came in and said, basically, yeah, I'm really sorry for macheteing your whole family. And believe it or not, it worked. You know, it really moves people when you apologize, when it's sincere and when it's deserved. But not for when Robert De Niro makes a joke.
Okay, so don't apologize for joking or having an opinion, that kind of thing.
Just don't take it too far. I mean, a little common sense is what we've lost in this nation.
Well, in the spirit of things, yeah, you're right. The spirit in which things are being offered, that gets completely erased.
And also, just if it's somebody in the media and you don't like what they said,
change the channel.
Right. Move on with your life. Yeah. You don't have to put it on pause and feel like nothing can go on until this person apologizes or this is set right. Just let it dirt off your shoulder. Remember that?
And you're a comedian, by the way. People have to remember that. You know what I mean? I mean, that's your core
objective. I remember it all the time.
Yeah. All right, I want you to look at another story. Kim Kardashian flower bombed last week, and here's what Will Smith tweeted about it. We live in America where a girl that threw flour on Kim Kardashian was arrested on site, but the man who killed Trayvon Martin is still free. Right?
Yeah, he's right.
Yeah, he's right. I actually have a caller that wants to bring this up a little bit. Her name is Yuli, is that right? Is that your name?
Yes.
Hi, Yuli. You wanted to comment on a particular story. Go right ahead. You're here with Bill Maher and myself.
Hi. Yeah, you know, it's crazy to me that George Zimmerman can still do as he wants, even though, you know, he's receiving threats. But the woman who flower bombed Kim Kardashian was arrested almost immediately. What more do they need to put this monster? What more do they need to arrest him?
That's the question.
Well, blows my mind.
Yeah, it blows everyone's mind, really, I think. I mean, the story, the intricacies of the story are apparently more complex than we all realize. But still, he walks free.
And that is what is on everyone's mind in America. I mean, and I do think that the pressure is going to become unbearable, even on that police department, which, you know, did not have a great record before this. And, of course, the law is what has to change. I mean, that, I think, is what is really getting people upset, is that even if we arrest this guy, there's no guarantee that Florida is going to change this basically anyone who scares you, you can shoot law, which is insane. And this is something we're going to talk about on my show this week, the idea that this is what happens in America when one political party, in this case the Democrats, completely rolls over on an issue, in this case gun control. Somewhere along the way, about 10 or 12 years ago, certainly after Al Gore lost the election and lost his home state of Tennessee and a number of swing states because he was a little too hard on the NRA. He only voted with them 75% of the time. The Democrats got it in their head that this gun control was a loser issue for them and they could never stand up, as they should. So what you have here is the NRA getting absolutely everything they want. They got so much of what they want that they had to start inventing stuff that didn't exist. Like, that's how we got this stand your ground law. They invented a scenario where, what if liberals try to take away our right to shoot someone who comes in our home? Well, we're going to have to take it one step farther. You're going to have that right when you're actually on the street, which is insane. And that's where we have gotten to, a place of insanity, because the Democrats rolled over on gun control.
Is your position there should be gun control, or we should have more sanity with guns, and we shouldn't have automatic weapons and
of
crazy?
Course. Well, I think we're saying the same thing. I mean, whatever you want to call it.
Well, but you're not saying people can't carry guns.
No.
You're saying there should be more sanity with guns.
Well, carry them? I don't know about carry them.
But there should be a different...
You should be able to have one in your home. I have one in my home. Yes, I think if someone comes into your home, you have every right to blow them away.
I think people would be surprised to hear you say that.
I don't, well, I've been saying it for years.
I think people would think that you would be someone that was against gun ownership.
People think a lot of things, and they're wrong about me, but I believe, yes, first of all, you're never going to get all the guns away from people in this country. There are now more guns than there are human beings in America. And you know that one of the gun companies said they got so many orders. And this gets back to our discussion of racism. You know, this is because there's a black president who, by the way, has never said a word about taking away your guns. But the fear out there is so great that they cannot keep up with the orders. They got more than 1 million orders last month for guns. Virginia had a law, you could only buy 1 gun a month. Very strict, because, you know, we've all gotten to the end of the month and run out of gun. Repealed it, because that was too restrictive. So, because sometimes you need more than 1 gun a month. You're like Christmas, when you want to buy for your friends.
But let's be fair, you're not asking for gun control, you're asking for gun sanity.
Gun sanity, which is what, it used to be a bipartisan concept, gun sanity. But as I say, that goes out the window when the right wing gets everything they want.
Well, isn't so much of what's underlying everything you and I have been talking about today is this sort of non-rational partisanship?
Yeah. Yes, but it's also wrong to say that it's equal. You know, this is the fake fairness idea that drives me nuts in America today, because anything one side does, then the media, thinking that this makes them look fair and balanced, has to say the other side does it in equal measure. That's not true.
The law makes us do that.
The law?
Well, there's law with news. When there's news reporting, you've got to give the opposing point of view a certain amount of time.
Well, you're talking about that's campaign.
Yeah.
That's campaigning. One side
and
has
allegations and things. Yeah.
That's a different thing than the media saying that you know, Keith Olbermann is the same thing as Glenn Beck.
Right, right.
No, Glenn Beck is a nut, and Keith Olbermann is a liberal. That's not the same thing.
Do you have any libertarian bent?
Of course.
Do you wish the government would get out of our lives?
I still get angry messages from libertarians saying I've turned my back on them. No, actually, the libertarians have changed. I haven't. Libertarianism, the way I used to interpret it, was I should be able to do anything that doesn't hurt another person. You know,
the government should get out of your life, basically.
Right, but it didn't mean that there shouldn't be, you know, inspections of meat, and not that I eat meat.
And air traffic control.
And air traffic control, and FEMA, you know.
I got to take another quick break. We'll talk more with Bill Maher when we come back. We are back with Bill Maher. Now, actress Alicia Silverstone apparently feeds her child like a bird. Now, you have to see this to believe it. Watch this. It is from her blog, The Kind Life. Here she is chewing some of her vegan delight, and then, wait, now she takes it and she feeds it like a bird to her little young boy, who, yes, oh no, there it goes. Bill, I say that young boy will live to hate his mother soon enough.
I like Alicia, but that's clueless, if I may.
But, you know, you and I have talked about this. What is it about celebrities who are people that, I mean, they don't have highly specialized training and professional degree. They're catapulted to these positions.
Right, and they live in they do live in a bubble.
Live in a bubble?
I mean, I will not name names because it's not polite to do that, but I have had guests on, not so much the show I do now, but Politically Incorrect, where you did not have to be that up on the issues, who I could not believe what they did not know. There was a big musical personage, I won't say who, in the year 2000, and before the show she said to my producer, we're talking about Scott Carter, she did not know who Al Gore was, heard the name. It's the year 2000.
Wow.
I remember in 2007 talking to another big star at an Oscar party, and he said, I'm thinking about coming on your show, but don't be too hard on me. I just found out who Dick Cheney was. You know, people who've been vice president, we're talking about 2 vice presidents for years and years, and just, that's a bubble.
Yeah,
that's a kind of a bubble that most people just cannot afford to live in.
And yet I would defend our right to talk about Alicia Silverstone and how goofy that is, and I don't think that's a good thing for your son. I think that's a terrible way of initiating boundaries with a young boy who needs to grow up and be autonomous. Horrible idea psychologically, but I defend her right to do that.
Of course.
People can do whatever they want, as long as they don't hurt anybody. Now, she may be hurting that child. There's a little bit of discussion there, but not really.
You know, but white supremacists raise their kids in, you know, you've seen the little child 5 years old with a Klan outfit on. I mean, if we start saying what you can do as a parent, we'd take a lot of kids away.
No, that's exactly right. And there are, of course, lines to draw, and we are more aware of these things these days. But I'm with you. I think fundamentally I want government out of my life, not telling me what to do, which is why the Supreme Court case today is a big, big deal as it pertains to health care. That this is going to test that issue. I know it's kind of silly on one level, trying to create health care.
It's not silly, but all week long now I have been watching people, Tea Party people, defending this idea that this is unconstitutional, and then the interviewer gets around to the question, okay, but what about people who don't have health insurance, who then get sick, who pays?
Yeah.
And they never have an answer. You know what they say? I don't know about that. I just know this is wrong.
That's right.
So childish. You know, we spent 2 years debating this. We spent a century, but 2 in a recent time when the bill was actually before the Congress. There is no better way to do it. Yes, it's not the perfect system, but live in the real world. There is no perfect answer. It's like the SAT test. Pick the best answer, not the perfect one.
And I would say we have to come up with something with the health care. All of us agree on that. That's the crazy thing.
Well,
we can't seem to agree on that.
There's a reason why all the other modern countries in the world have come up with this basic idea.
Something
You
like
got to get everybody in the pool.
Yep.
And everybody is going to get sick.
Bill, I got to go. Thank you for being here. I have to mention that the Will Smith Twitter we put up apparently was a fake, I guess. I'm obliged to say that. But I want to thank Bill Maher for being here. I do appreciate you coming on.
Always great to see you.
We'll always watch Bill on Real Time on HBO. What time of night? Friday night?
Friday night?
We'll see you all next time. Thanks for watching.